In this video, we're going to take a look at the Ulefone Armor 27T Pro. The Pro upgrades the regular 27T to 5G status with a Dimensity 6300 from MediaTek. I picked this up for $344 during the world premiere from AliExpress. Inside the box, we have the lanyard, the SIM tray removal tool, USB-C to USB-C charge cable, and the 33-watt charging brick. Inside the packet of books and instructions, you get a tempered glass screen protector. Keeping true to the Armor name, this phone has a rugged design and looks to match. We have the headphone jack on the top. There's the IR blaster. Got the volume buttons and power button with the integrated fingerprint scanner. On the bottom, we have the USB charge port covered in a flap. The microphone next to it and the bottom speaker. There you have the accessories, attachment port, custom shortcut key. And here's your SIM tray, which you can actually remove with your fingernails if you have a little bit there. You can put two nano SIMs on one side and a micro SD card on the other. This phone's design is very eye-catching with its black, silver, and orange color scheme. The rugged-looking hourglass outline gives it a profile that invites you to grab it. The phone is IP68, IP69K, water, shock, and dust resistant. It has a military-grade STD-810 drop test certification. The camera hump on the back is framed by a silver metal outline with glass protecting the lenses of the claimed 50-megapixel main camera, the FLIR Thermal Camera, and the claimed 54-megapixel infrared night vision camera. The panel here that looks like it's textured is actually flat and smooth. I thought it was textured from the images on the website. I think if it was actually textured, it would look even better and improve the grip, but it's a nice look regardless. The sides has the metal rails, which is the usual design of Ulefone devices. On the Armor 27T, there is a rubbery surround that improves the grip, and it feels much better than my old Power Armor 13 and even my previous Power Armor 19. It's not a thin rubber coating, but a thick, hard, rubbery material that feels similar to the surface of a basketball. This is powered by a Dimensity 6300 5G CPU. NanoReviews.net gives it a C-class rating, which puts it in the range of a Snapdragon 480 Plus. Even though it sounds very mediocre to be given a C-grade ranking, for most daily tasks such as messaging or web browsing, it is sufficient. It comes with 256 gigs of internal storage and 12 gigs of real physical RAM. This comes with the virtual RAM gimmick to boost it up to a claimed 24 gigs of RAM that all these class of phones love to brag about. I never enable this as it is simply using the internal storage to simulate RAM like a Windows page file. This also comes with NFC, a 10,600 milliamp hour battery that charges at 30 watts wirelessly and also has the ability to reverse wireless charge your devices. The display has a 120Hz maximum refresh rate on a 6.78-inch display. Resolution is 2460 by 1080. Brightness is at 680 nits. A Pixel 8 has a peak brightness of 1400 nits, and a Galaxy S23 is at 1200 nits. There's also a notification LED. I want to first talk about the display. First of all, this wallpaper that shipped with the phone just burns my eyes. So let's change that out to something more appealing. Another thing about the screen is that the lighting in the background, or the background lighting, is very harsh. It's like a bright white light that if you look at it head on is not very comfortable for your eyes. I don't have this problem with my other phones, but on this one, I couldn't get it to be more comfortable. Even on dimmer settings, it's like a light shining in your eye. It could be the viewing angle. And the dark mode definitely helps a little bit, but it's still noticeable. On to the biometrics. The fingerprint scanner on the side is very sensitive and works well. I can unlock the phone confidently pretty much every time. It also comes with face unlock, and that works fine in regular lighting, and in dark lighting, it senses that there's low lighting and it will use a white background to light your face up, and that works well too. It's a very clever workaround that's effective. Although the fingerprint scanner works well, there's a little bit of a bug where when you accidentally touch it while watching YouTube, it brings up the on-screen controls, and it doesn't go away until you tap the screen. I have the same issue on the Power Armor 19, but not on the Power Armor 13. Both of those have side-mounted fingerprint scanners. And on another brand, like this Yumi DG side fingerprint scanner, it doesn't interrupt the video either. So it's something with the software, but I doubt it'll be fixed because these phones won't get any updates. Let's get started with the software of this phone. The main reason why you bought this 27T Pro is the thermal imaging. And to use this feature, you use the My FLIR Pro app. It does take a few seconds to get started, but once it's started, it looks like a typical camera app. You have the toggle for the LED lighting and a shutter timer. Let's turn the light off before I forget. On the settings page, the first setting you can change is the emissivity, and it explains that this is a setting for the type of material you will be measuring, and that matte surfaces are the most accurate while glossy surfaces will not work well, but you have the option to choose it. Then you have your temperature units, the save location for your images and videos, your automatic calibration toggle, an option to send usage statistics, a settings reset, and an alignment tool. Because it uses two cameras, sometimes the image overlay might not match the thermal image, so you can use this tool to help align it. Now for using the app, on the top you have a bunch of icons. If you're not familiar with the app, long holding each icon brings up the description. It's basically a bunch of overlays to help you measure the temperature of what the image is showing. We can get started with the measurement tools. You have a point, a rectangular area, the entire screen area measurement, a circular area with the averages, and a line tool. This might be useful if you're measuring pipes or something straight, as it gets the average of the entire length of the line. Here's a demo of how it looks like. I have a candle on my desk, and you can see how each area and how each measuring overlay reacts to different heated areas of the image. Next, we have the overlay options. This first one is simply the thermal image. The next one, the MSX, you get an outline of the image over the thermal image. There's a slider to adjust the blend percentage. The one after that, with the layers icon, you get the actual image overlaid on top of the thermal image. And lastly, it's just the camera image itself. You don't see the thermal map, but you still get the thermal measurements. You can long press each area or point of measurement and rename it. This would be useful for identifying objects if you're making a video or taking a photo. For the single point tool, you can add multiple points. However, the rectangular area and the circular area and the line, you can only have one of each. You can also remove one at a time or just delete them all. For the other tools, you can get a screen spectrum that shows the range of temperatures on the current image. Hit the lock icon to lock the range in place. If you move the camera out of the image, the spectrum range won't automatically adjust. The flame icon toggles a high heat measurement option. You see, if I'm measuring the fire, on the point of the fire, it gives a weird reading, or it says above a certain temperature. If I toggle it on, it can read higher temperatures. The icon above that is to save your settings, and the one after that is a manual recalibration of the screen for the heat map. On the other side, you have a color scheme that you can change, and also the different modes like photo, video, live stream to YouTube, and time-lapse recording. There's also a vivid imaging toggle. It looks like it's more pixelated, or it's just a more well-defined heat map. Images recorded with just the thermal map comes out at 640 by 480, although the actual heat pixels of the FLIR Thermal Camera is claimed to be 80 by 60, while any overlay attached to that will come out to 1440 by 1080. Videos come out to 1080p, but only 10 frames per second. Here's some sample videos I took using the thermal camera. This one is my sink, and I'm turning on the hot water. You can see the changes as the water gradually gets hotter. Then I turn off the hot water and I turn on the cold water. You can see how it affects the porcelain, and it creates a ring, then I splash water on it to cool it more evenly. Although now it shows that there's a hot spot, it's only because that's the hottest region of the image right now and is relative to the coldest region. Here I go behind that sink, and you can see there's an overlay of the thermal map with the real image, and you can see which pipe is the hot water pipe. Other uses include finding your pet in a dark garage. Or you can just have some fun with your dogs on the couch. And you can also get creative and make some funny videos. Now let's look at the regular camera. By default, it has the regular photo, film mode, 50 megapixel mode, and here you can choose more modes. I'm glad they included the night mode here because on my FLIR Armor 19, which is the last Ulefone I bought, it didn't have a night mode and low light images were horrible. But here you have night mode, the document scanner, portrait mode, pro mode, and all the other basic modes that should come with a modern phone. And when you exit out, you can go into night vision, not to be confused with night mode. It's the infrared night vision camera. So here's some samples of night vision versus night mode versus how regular pictures look like. Night mode works pretty well as long as there's a little bit of light that the camera can work with. Here in my dark room, if I turn off all the lights and there's pretty much zero visibility, the night mode won't do anything for you. It'll still come out pretty dark because there's no light to amplify. But if I turn on a little spotlight in the corner, it helps a lot. Of course, the infrared, you can see much better although it's black and white. Here's how it works outdoors in the dark park. Night mode versus infrared. As for well-lit pictures in daytime or in a store with good lighting, it looks fine. Pretty much all modern cameras work well in daylight or well-lit areas. As for the 50 megapixel camera, I see slight improvement when zoomed in to some text on a photo of a label on the shelf. You can see slightly more detail, but the improvement is very slight. And in the normal 12 megapixel mode, you have the HDR function and the AI, scene detection. But when you activate 50 megapixel mode, you lose both those features. For the front camera, the only option you have is if you want the front flash, which is just a white background to brighten up your face or something that's immediately in front of the camera. You also have a beauty mode with filters to slim your face or to smooth your skin. One good thing about this camera app is that you can customize a lot of the settings here, such as which modes you want to appear on the main screen. For my use, I really don't have a use for the film mode, which kind of turns everything orange or grainy. So I'm going to remove that and add in the night mode. See, now I can access it without going into another screen. You also get the option of changing how you want to access your extra modes. By default, you click on the More tab, but you can choose to have a sliding drawer. I actually like the sliding drawer better, so I'm going to choose that. Next, you have this select color option. I couldn't tell what it was, but if you look closely, it's just to change the color of the font, which I don't think it's a big deal, or it's not a change that I would really notice or even care to change, but it's there if you want. And you also have some different camera sounds you can choose. You have these choices here. I usually turn off my camera sounds, but if you want to have a different sound, you can choose one of these. To use the infrared transmitter, you simply use the included app called Remote Control. It will ask you to select the type of device. Here I have an old Samsung Plasma TV. And it's currently off, so I've just pressed the power button, and you're supposed to press it until the TV turns on. Luckily for me, it turns on the first try. You can save the remote or try a different button to make sure you have the right remote control. Then you save it, and when you open the app, you just choose which profile to use. It's actually more useful than you expect it to be. Now let's get into the software. The Armor 27T Pro comes with a basic quick step launcher. It's very basic with 5 rows and 4 columns for the icon grid and a static row on the bottom. You can add more pages if needed. To change the grid layout, you use the wallpaper option, and it's the last option on the bottom. It's not very obvious, but it's there. Folders are supported. The only other customization is the animation of the page swipes and icon sizing. I will likely install my go-to launcher, which is the Microsoft launcher. Next, let's go through some of the unique features in the settings. Under notifications, we have an option to flash the screen a custom color and also flash the camera's LED for alarms and notifications. There is a toggle for the notifications LED light. There are no settings for this, but I see it lights up a solid blue while charging and flashes blue for missed calls. It flashes green if there are notifications to be viewed. I expected a red LED light for a low battery warning, but that was not the case. Under display, there is a home settings where you have an option to activate the easy launcher. This gives the launcher large icons and no app drawer, so every app is just out there. To exit, you must go back to the settings, display, then home settings and toggle this off. In the control center, you get to choose the shape of the icons for your notifications pull-down panel. In the lock screen layout, you get to choose how your clock and date looks like. I like to quickly see my time and date at a glance, so I choose the one-line clock with a large date display. Charging animations is a pretty cool feature that lets you obviously choose the animation that pops up when you plug in the charger or place it on the wireless charger. Here's how they look like. Now we get to the custom key. This sets up how you want the side custom key to behave for single, double, and long presses. You can choose a preset action or launch an installed app. I like mine set up as a single press to open up the Google Assistant, a double press for the flashlight, and a long press for a screenshot. Note that even with the screen off, the flashlight function using the custom key still works. On to the special functions. You get your usual gesture settings here like flip to silent and lift to your ear to answer a call. This is also where you toggle on your reverse wireless charging. The widget box. This looks similar to the iOS Dynamic Island, it's just a fancy looking notification. When you connect your Bluetooth headphones, it pops up a nicer looking display where the front camera area is. When playing music, it shows an equalizer animation, and you can long press this to get media controls similar to a widget. It's a little gimmicky as you can get these functions by just pulling down the notification panel and use the typical music controls, but it looks sleeker here. In the fingerprint function settings, there are options to let you set an action based on just touching the sensor as a long touch or short touch, although it calls it a click. Here I set it to function as a back key with a touch. I just tap the sensor without actually pressing the physical button. The side application bar lets you set up a side swipe to open a customizable app bar to multitask easier. You swipe from either side towards the center and hold there for a second to bring up the side bar. You can customize what appears here using the three-dot icon on the bottom. App cloning lets you create another copy of an app, but only supported apps can be cloned. There's only 4 apps it lists: WhatsApp, WeChat, QQ, and Facebook. The cloned app has a slightly different icon, as you see the cloned WeChat here. Children's Space lets you set up a limited access home screen. It's great for if you want to let your kid or someone you don't trust use your phone. It can be time limited and access to mobile data blocked. Wi-Fi is still enabled, however, but if you disabled Wi-Fi before activating, there will be no data connection at all. There's an exit button on the bottom, and you must enter your unlock pattern or password exit. The anti-theft mode. This is a clever function that will sound an alarm if your charger or headphone jack is removed while the screen is locked. You must unlock your phone to stop the alarm. You can also set up the phone to require a screen lock password to be entered before it's able to be shut down. The app lock. This feature lets you lock out apps, and you must provide credentials before the selected app can be opened, even if the phone is already unlocked. The app was a bit tricky to set up because it lets you toggle the apps to be locked, but they are not locked until you set up a password. You must set up a password every time you want to activate or reactivate it. It's not very user-friendly, but it's a nice feature to have if privacy is your concern. The anti-peep function. This privacy shade function is useful for hiding parts of the screen from others around you. You can expand the visible area by sliding vertically. You can also adjust the amount of shade by sliding it horizontally. You can interact with the entire screen, even the shaded parts. Use the exit icon to return full visibility. The Dura Speed feature. This feature is supposed to let you limit which apps can run in the background. On older phones, I had this enabled and worked fine, but modern Android seems to be keeping things in check just fine without any extra help, so I now leave this off. However, on this device, even when I do not activate Dura Speed, I keep getting Dura Speed notifications about apps being restricted, and it asks me to manually lift restrictions. This is a bit of an annoyance because I'm not sure now if the app is being restricted or not. I will need to find a way to see if I can manually force Dura Speed to be uninstalled, the Smart Touch feature. This feature enables a floating button that can be set up as gesture or menu mode. On gesture mode, you can assign actions based on single, double, or long presses. On menu mode, touching the button brings up an arc of icons you assign actions or apps to. I don't like things floating around my screen, so I'll leave this off.
There are some really useful features here, such as the anti-theft mode and the anti-peep display mode. However, activating those when you need it requires you to get into the settings and navigating to the specific feature. It would be nice if we could activate some of these with the custom side key. This might be possible by using third-party apps to set this up, but it shouldn't have to be this way. This should be set up out of the box.
Other interesting apps that came with this phone is an outdoor tools app with various measuring tools. And there is this app freezer that lets you disable non-system apps until you need to use it again. As far as performance goes, this comes with a C-class budget 5G processor, but running daily browsing tasks are not a problem. Here I'll start a YouTube video playing as a picture-in-picture. Now I start a crypto tracker. We are going to split that window and look at Instagram. All three tasks are going on smoothly. And if my loser friend sends me a text message, I can reply without closing anything. Lastly, let's check out some phone calls since this is a phone after all. Here's how the speakerphone sounds like.
Call the Walgreens in Las Vegas.
I found a few options. Which would you like?
The first one.
All right, sure. Calling Walgreens.
Hi, thanks for calling Walgreens.
Para continuar en español, oprima 9. How can I help you today?
Store hours.
Sure. We're open every day from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. You can say repeat that or text me the hours.
Now I'm going to leave myself a voicemail using the Armor 27T Pro to test out the microphone.
Please leave your message.
9.
I'm leaving a voicemail using the Ulefone Armor 27T Pro.
The voicemail playback sounds like this.
Leaving a voicemail using the Ulefone Armor 27T Pro.
Let's compare that to a spammer's voicemail.
This is Sarah from United One. My callback number is 888-490-8086. I'm calling.
As for Android Auto, I've used this on several road trips and there were no issues with Android Auto. The navigation lost its GPS signal once in 3 weeks, but eventually locked back on after a few minutes. The battery can go up to 5 days for me. My typical usage include about 20 minutes of Android Auto each way, so about 40 minutes of Android Auto daily. And throughout the day, I'm simply browsing and messaging. I do not play games or do anything that stresses the CPU much. Screen on time shows it to be between 9 and 10 hours. I think this is a good phone with tons of features. The camera can accommodate almost any lighting condition, and the thermal camera is helpful depending on your occupation. Or it can just be something for fun when the occasion calls for it. The display has a bit of a harsh white light, but using dark mode and the night light at all times helps it a bit. If you don't need the thermal image camera, you can save some money buying the non-thermal camera version, the 27 Pro.